Hello and welcome. Plug-in America presents the webinar, Successful EV Dealers. Our presenters are Paul Scott, who sells the Nissan Leaf, and Heath Carney, who sells the Chevrolet Volt. The slides and video of this webinar should become available at our website in about a week. So if you miss a web address or some other detail during the presentations, you will be able to rediscover it then. We will be taking questions near the end of the webinar. Just type your questions into the questions box at the lower right of your screen, and we will probably answer them on audio. This webinar is produced by Plug-in America, which is a nonprofit corporation that advocates the use of electric vehicles. It began as a group of drivers of the GM EV1 and other electric cars of that era. It later became a chapter of the Electric Auto Association and grew to become a leading organization in the EV space. At Plug-in America, we drive electric. You can too. We accelerate the shift to plug-in vehicles powered by clean, affordable domestic electricity to reduce our nation's dependence on petroleum and improve the global environment. Please consider becoming a member or donating to Plug-in America. It's a community of people who value health, security, and sustainability. Your donation helps to cover critical expenses, including website hosting, printing, advertising, outreach, and participation in public events and conferences. You can join or donate today on the Take Action page at pluginamerica.org. So let us get going with this webinar. Let us begin with our first presenter, Paul Scott. Paul is a founding member of Plug-in America and a longtime EV driver and advocate for renewable energy. Paul has worked in the film business for most of his career, while keeping involved as a population activist and environmental activist. More recently, he has been selling the Leaf at a Nissan dealer in Southern California. Paul, welcome to the webinar, and please tell us about selling the Leaf to your customers.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's a pleasure to talk to you all about this. I started off as an activist and became an advocate as Plug-in America got going. And when I had the opportunity to take a job selling this car, I jumped on it. I was one of the first ones to drive the production model in Yokohama when they first came out, and was quite astounded at the quality of the drive. And I've been an EV driver for many years. I bought a 2002 RAV4 and had been driving that for about 8 years when the Leaf came out. So I started off in Santa Monica at the Nissan dealer there. That dealership has since closed, but they closed because the hospital owned the property and wanted to use the property for something else. So I then switched to downtown Nissan, Los Angeles, and that's where I'm working today. So I've had many good customers. I've sold a little over 300 of the cars so far, and they sell themselves pretty much. It's obviously a very popular car. And in Los Angeles, there are plenty of people who understand the need for cleaning our air. So I have a steady stream of customers interested, and very many of them purchase or lease the car. One of the big reasons that people maintain that electric cars are not going to sell well is because of lack of charging infrastructure. One of the things that Nissan and AeroVironment are doing right now, they're installing fast charging, DC fast charging throughout California and eventually the nation. We're getting our charger installed in about a week. They're supposed to start trenching for the electricity right now this week sometime. So I suspect by this time next week we'll probably have our fast charger up and running. Now this is one of the biggest reasons that I think that the Leaf is going to sell very fast this year, is because the ability to fast charge this car enables you to drive regionally. For the most part, these cars are used for daily commuting all around your town. It has plenty of range for that. However, if I were to want to drive to San Francisco, for instance, from Los Angeles, it would be way too long to charge on level 2 along the way. But with a fast charger, I wouldn't hesitate to take my car up to San Francisco. I don't mind stopping for half an hour every 100 miles or so. And that way I would have my car while I was visiting in San Francisco. So it makes the car from just a commuter car to more of a a regional driving car, and anything beyond that distance I would just fly. The other having electric vehicle supply equipment, charging stations at your grocery store, shopping malls, movie theaters, coffee shops, any place where you might spend half an hour or more gives you enough energy to drive several more miles. So you want to take advantage of that. This is a Ralph's grocery store. It doesn't look like a grocery store, but a wider shot would have indicated that. But they have 2 charging stations that they installed, and this particular store has had charging stations for over 10 years. I used to shop here when I had my RAV. As a matter of fact, when I would shop, I would go to the manager after I spent $80 or $100 in the store and tell him the reason I was shopping in his store is because of the chargers out there. And about 6 months ago, they swapped out the old paddle-style chargers for these new Blink stations. And they're getting quite a bit of use. Santa Monica has a lot of EVs, and this particular store gets a lot of EV shoppers because of these charge stations. Another company that's been installing a lot of them, Blink, obviously, Ecotality's Blink stations are popular throughout the nation. And a company that is in downtown Los Angeles that produces or refurbishes old buildings into condos bought 10 charging stations plus LA's first fast charging station. And when I'm selling cars at the dealership, I'm constantly mentioning these places. I tell people this fast charger is already in operation. He's got 10 level 2 charge stations right next to it. There are great restaurants all around the neighborhood. So it really helps people understand that, well, maybe there aren't a lot of fast chargers yet, but there will be very soon. And already there are a few, and that gives them the confidence that they can come and buy the car and make it useful for them. A dealer would be doing well to install their own charging stations. Obviously, we've got 4 of them at our dealership. This particular photograph is not of our dealership, but it's a good example of how you could do it at a dealership. The curved archways are solar panels, and the charge stations are right behind those Mitsubishis, and you can see my red Leaf there with a fast charger right in front of it. So they've installed a fast charger plus a whole bunch of level 2 charge stations. And so a typical dealer, right now they probably don't have any charge stations and certainly no solar. But as things go on and as dirty electricity becomes more expensive, it's going to become cost effective for dealers to install large solar arrays in their parking lot to generate power to offset the energy used on the charge stations. And that way, when you sell a car, you can sell each EV with a tank full of sunshine. And that's a great marketing. It's a gimmick, but it certainly works. You sell a new car with a full tank of gas. Well, why not a full tank of sunshine? I've mentioned that to several of my customers, and even though we don't have solar at our dealership, we're certainly contemplating getting it soon because it's a wonderful idea and works. The main reasons that people buy these cars, the motivation comes from 3 main areas. You've got the environment and health, pretty much lump those 2 together. And then there's the economy and national security. For the environment, it's pretty clear that electric cars are good for the environment, particularly when renewable energy is employed. You have zero pollution well to wheels, and then that knocks down the pollution that causes so many health problems. We here in Los Angeles have had dirty air for decades, and a recent study by one of the cancer hospitals here found that cancer rates along the freeways are extremely high relative to other areas. And we have several oil refineries here, and downwind from the oil refineries, cancer rates spike. So the refining of oil into gasoline and the burning of that gasoline clearly causes cancer, heart disease, lung disease, and a whole host of ill health. And so as we switch and as we transition to renewable electricity to power our cars, the ill effects on the environment and our health will diminish. It's going to take decades, but we're starting now, and we've got a good start, and we'll continue down that road. The economy. Here in California, we spend about $55 billion a year for gasoline and diesel, and about 90% of that money leaves the state of California, never to return. Even though we have a fairly significant oil industry here and refining industry, most of the money still leaves the state. Now that's seriously impacting our economy here. And even though our state has the strongest economy of all states, and is equivalent to about the 7th largest economy in the world, we are bleeding money very badly, and it's having to do with oil. So as we, again, transition to renewable electricity to replace that oil, that money stays here. And instead of losing $50 billion a year, we'll start keeping that money here. It will circulate through our local economies, generating tens of thousands of jobs, and we'll be a lot stronger economically speaking. And then the final big reason why people buy electric cars, and this cuts across both the right and the left politically, is national security. Anybody who has seriously studied the geopolitical situation vis-a-vis oil knows that we're spending a huge amount of money on military protection for oil. The RAND Corporation studied this particular issue and found that the amount of money we spend every year for military protection of oil is about $80 billion. Now, that's a massive amount of money, and by the way, that has nothing to do with wars. It was exclusive of the expenditure for wars. And nobody that I know would say that the Iraq War had nothing to do with oil. It clearly had to do a lot with oil. And we've spent about $1.5 trillion on the Iraq War, lost thousands of dead soldiers, and we've got tens of thousands of wounded soldiers who we'll be caring for the rest of their lives. So the economic impact of that is fairly significant. So when I get a customer in, they generally have come in looking for an EV because, I'm the EV specialist and I don't sell any of the gas cars. So the customers I see are already predisposed toward a plug-in car. Now, they may not have settled on the Leaf. They might be looking at some of the plug-in hybrids out there or some of the other BEVs. But by the time they get into my office, they're pretty much sold on getting a plug-in car of some kind. So it becomes my job to convince them that the Leaf is the better buy. And our dealership has gone way out of its way to promote this car. We have 5 employees who have purchased them and drive them every day. And this is people in finance, people in sales, people in service. So our service manager drives one. 2 of our finance guys drive one. And so when the customers talk to these people, they're not just being sold the story by the salesman, but they're seeing everybody else involved in the dealership are buying these cars as quickly as possible. And I would guarantee you that within a year, there'll be 10 of us driving them. And we're all vying for the same charge stations in the parking lot now, too. So the dealership has really bought into the whole idea of plug-in cars. We're installing our fast charger right now. We've got 4 chargers in the parking lot, and we're very liberal about their use. We don't care if you bought your Leaf here. We don't even care if you bought a Leaf. I go out there on any given day, and I'll see a Volt or a Ford Focus charging. It doesn't matter to us. We want to be that friendly dealership that caters to electric vehicle people, because we know that if you try to be selfish with the energy and only let your customers use it, that word spreads around that you're not a friendly dealership, and particularly not friendly to EVs. The other thing that this dealership did is without bragging or anything, they hired me. And I've been in this world for about 10 years now, and I know all the issues very well. And so if somebody is not quite convinced yet of the need for driving these cars, I spend 10 or 15 minutes going over all the issues And I've had very good success with that. I'll give you one example before I'll sign up. And this was in Santa Monica last year. A woman came in, said she was going to be buying a used car for her son, but she wanted to talk to me because her husband had signed up for one of these Leaf EVs. And she was really, she didn't think that was such a good idea. And 10 minutes later, when she left the office, she said, well, my husband's not going to get that car. I'm going to get it. So I had convinced her inside of 10 minutes that not only it was a good idea, but that she should be driving it too. And I've had many successes like that. You know, the people, unless you're pretty much brain dead or you just don't care about the environment or the economy or your country, then you're going to be convinced that driving on electricity is better than driving on oil. And I'm here to motivate you to do it now rather than later. So, you know, our dealership is one of the more successful Leaf dealers in the country. And our goal is to be #1. We'll see if we get there. There's a lot of others that are doing even better than we are now. So, and I find that a challenge, but also a challenge that I like, because that means other dealers are picking up on the value of these cars. And it's my firm belief that in 50 years you won't be able to buy a car that doesn't have a plug on it. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be a lot sooner than that. It sure needs to be. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Paul, for explaining about your customers and addressing their concerns about charging infrastructure and other issues. Our next presenter is Heath Carney. Heath has lived and worked in the greater Sacramento region for nearly 30 years. His education is extensive and includes a PhD in environmental studies from UC Davis. He has over 10 years of car and truck sales experience of primarily Chevrolet, some Toyota and Mitsubishi new vehicles, and the whole range of used vehicle retail sales. He is currently employed with John L. Sullivan Chevrolet in Roseville, California. Heath, welcome to the meeting, and please tell us about your experiences of selling the Volt.
Hello, Dave. Well, am I coming through okay there?
Oh, yeah. We see you fine. We hear you fine.
Okay, wonderful. So, hey, Dave, I want to thank you and the others at Plug-in America so much for inviting me to this talk. I think this is a really important topic, and what I want to talk about, as the title indicates here, is the plug-in imperative, a better dealership experience. And I'll go to the overview here. This is why I think this topic is so important. I think that right now the dealership experience is the most important factor which is affecting the sales growth of plug-in vehicles. I think we're at a point now in the electric vehicle market where we've got some fantastic products. For example, the Volt was the car of the year in 2011. For 2 years running, the Volt has been considered by owners the very best vehicle. It ranks tops in owner satisfaction according to Consumer Reports. Now in 2013, the Tesla Model S, of course, is the car of the year. So we've got fantastic products. Of course, that includes as well the Nissan Leaf, the Toyota plug-ins, Ford, and others. So overall, I don't think we have a technological challenge. We've got great vehicles. I think the current challenge is mainly at dealerships where we have both social as well as physical challenges. The social ones have to do with how the salespeople interact with customers. The physical challenges include, for example, having enough vehicles in stock and having the right displays and information for these vehicles. So what I want to cover is, first of all, what dealerships can do, and I'll talk specifically about what we do at our Chevrolet and Toyota dealerships. Then the other side of the coin is what customers and others, such as organizations like Plug-in America, can do as well. And finally, since I am ultimately an optimist, I want to talk about the great opportunity that I think there is for all of us. So let me get right to what I think is the key challenge at the dealership has to do with the interaction of the typical EV customer with the typical salesperson at the dealership. Here are summaries of profiles. This incidentally is based on literally hundreds of encounters and observations of encounters at dealerships here. The EV customer is educated and analytical. The salesperson, on the other hand, the strength of a good salesman is that he or she is an extrovert, a real people person, but not necessarily terribly educated or analytical. Secondly, the EV customer, even though they've researched these vehicles quite a bit, still has many questions at the dealership. The salesperson may not have all the answers. After all, at many locations, electric vehicles are just a small subset of all the vehicles that are available. The EV customer wants to do a lot of research. They want to be able to do a lot of comparisons at different locations. On the other hand, the salesperson wants to sell a car, preferably that day at that location. The EV customer wants great selection. The salesperson may have limited selection of electric vehicles. And finally, when the customer becomes a purchaser and owner, he or she may want and need more than the usual time for the whole sales process, whereas many salespeople have relatively limited time and resources. Now, these two summaries are text summaries, and I think what really helps to clarify just what the situation is to have pictures or images rather than just this text. So what I've done is taken these profiles and come up with these images, which I think represent the situation. So here what you can clearly see is that there's a huge difference between these two images. About the only thing that you see in common is the need for dental work here. Now, granted, I'm using a little dramatic license in presenting these photographs, but I will maintain that these still reflect at least somewhat the actual situations at dealerships. In some cases, these pictures may only be 10 to 20% accurate, but there are plenty of cases, and at my location, for example, where I work, where these pictures can be closer to 80 to 90% accurate. So the question is, how can we go from what seems like a rather challenging situation to something more like this, an outstanding dealership experience. Now here I am with, this is me in the black jacket here with Tim Hastrup, who has a bright red, and some of you may recognize this. This is an EV1 jacket here. So the Tim Hastrup has been a past head of the local Electric Auto Association here, and to let you know, part of what was wonderful about the interaction with Tim is that, first of all, we've known each other for quite a while, for many years. So this is one important point of developing great dealership experiences is working with people that you get to know. Secondly, Tim, he understands electric vehicles so well over the years that he didn't have a whole lot of questions. In fact, he had a whole lot of answers and encouraged me quite a bit. So what I want to emphasize here is that in this case, Tim Hastrup, I should give the primary credit for the outstanding dealership experience. He's had very steadfast support for electric vehicles over many years. And he has purchased, in addition, well, he purchased this Volt a couple of years ago. In addition, he has purchased a Nissan Leaf, the Toyota RAV4 EV as well. And over the years, like I said, he's just been very steadfast in his support for EVs. At one point, I tried to sell him a Prius when there didn't seem to be any electric vehicles available in the early 2000s. And he looked at me calmly and said, Heath electric vehicles just have superior technologies. I'm going to have to wait. Finally, he's had an opportunity to get electric vehicles, and his enthusiasm has definitely carried over. So while in this actual picture at the time, of course, I'm the salesman, but over the longer period, I've been the nutty professor, and he's been the loud EV salesman with the loud jacket here, and he has led to a number of other purchases, and that includes my own purchase of a Volt. I've had a Volt now for a couple of years, bought mine shortly after his, and as you can see, I'm proud of my Volt, and what I'm showing here in this wrap are the main renewable energy sources that I use. That includes wind, biomass. On the other side, I show hydroelectric and solar. So what I would like to do with the rest of this talk is provide a balanced perspective here on the dealership experience as an electric vehicle owner as well as a salesperson. So what I want to start with is just a broad overview of dealerships and how they're easing into the electric vehicle market. I view the situation largely in terms of resources, the resources available at the dealership for presenting and selling electric vehicles. There are three main categories of resources. They start with inventory. That's the number of vehicles, electric vehicles, and the selection of these vehicles. Secondly, what facilities are there? What areas are there to display these vehicles? And in addition, what facilities do you have in service and parts as well? And finally, getting down to staff, how many staff are available? How well trained are these staff? Now then, so for these three types of resources, you can go all the way from being EV compliant. This is where many dealerships begin at a compliance level, where you just have a minimum level of inventory. This may be just one or two vehicles. And what we've quickly found is that just having one or two vehicles, what some may consider to be halo vehicles, for example, that is clearly inadequate. And when we just had one or two at a time, we've often lost sales, for example, because we haven't had enough vehicles. Facilities, this can include just one or two chargers, and incidentally, like Paul, we're up to at least 4 chargers now. But we did start with the minimum 2, which was required for locations selling Volts. Then to staff, we've started with one person, myself, in sales, and one in service, but we've been able to continue from there. So you can go all the way from EV compliant to more EV friendly, and finally the ultimate goal is to be EV enthusiasts, and I classify this as including a great selection of vehicles. Last year, for example, toward the end of the year, we were able to get to the point where we had at least 20 to 30 electric vehicles, and we were able to sell that many in December in 1 month. In addition, within 1 year, what I was able to do going down here to staff is train enough others where there were quite a few motivated and trained staff. And again, this greatly improved sales during the past years, during the past year, 2012. So let me go ahead and summarize then what we are doing at the Chevrolet and at Toyota stores is, first of all, regarding inventory, we found that we do need to maintain an adequate selection of at least 10 to 15 electric vehicles per store, per location. And we may need more at periods of peak demand. These periods of peak demand include the Memorial Weekend, Labor Day weekend, and the holidays, Christmas holidays. Secondly, facilities. We have installed additional chargers. And like Paul, we have 4 right now. And what we've done, what I've emphasized here too, is having chargers which people will see in public too. There are two major companies, Clipper Creek and Coulomb ChargePoint. So these are chargers that we have available at the dealership also. In addition, we'll shortly be doubling our charging capability with dedicated solar canopies. So these are literally under construction right now. And in addition, there are efforts to improve displays in the showroom, service, and parts areas as well. Now, finally, I think this is an important point to emphasize. With regard to training, let me mention that manufacturer training tends to focus on just a given vehicle, a given model. This clearly has limits. And what I've done is made an effort to improve the training in this way. And incidentally, this training has been supported as well by the California Employment Training Panel. And what I've been doing is adding information on vehicle types, charging, utilities, incentives, and other regional opportunities. So this information, and this is a key aspect, and where the dealership is very important, is providing regionally relevant information. I know that Paul was emphasizing this too, how he can provide some of the information for the people in his area. This is where there are a lot of questions for customers, and this is where the dealerships need to have information for the local and regional charging and other types of information that we have there. So this I found to be very, very important here. Now, let's go to the other side of the coin, which is what the EV customer can do, and also what organizations working with EV customers can do, including Plug-in America. So what I'd like to bring up here is something that was discussed by Clark Howard. He's a consumer advocate, which of course has influenced the way a lot of car buyers shop and think about new vehicles and new technologies. So what he stated is he's one of the people who has emphasized not buying the first year of a new car. Buying used cars and being very careful with new technology, which of course would slow the pace for the adoption of electric vehicles. So what he said in the case of electric vehicles is that I'm going to violate all these rules if by being an early adopter is part of the process of making electric vehicles more viable. I'm all for that, even with my bucks. And I think this is an important attitude we need to emphasize. We have a lot of interest, a lot of people coming to dealerships, but we need to get beyond the interest stage and get to the point where people should be actually buying vehicles rather than just looking at them. So I think this is what we all need to emphasize, is that these vehicles are tried and true now. They've been in the market now, certainly the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Volt now for several years, and they're just great vehicles. So what consumers need to do is support the cause and buy a plug-in vehicle now. So that's one thing that we need to see at the dealerships is a stronger buying interest, not just curiosity at dealership. Now, in addition, what I hope organizations like Plug-in America can do is help us to have people recognize that dealerships do have limits in certain key areas. And I'm showing here too that I've developed a dedicated website to include links for this kind of information. But we at dealerships do have limits in these areas. First of all, external incentives, especially the federal incentive. We can't do taxes for people, so ultimately people do need to go to tax advisors regarding the federal incentive. And now for California, the state incentive is a little more straightforward, but there too, you may need a tax advisor in some cases. Secondly, for chargers and charging, I certainly have recommendations for people. But again, ultimately, there's quite a variety of homes out there. The older homes especially may need a little more attention than your homes. So ultimately, consumers need to work with electricians and installers on chargers and charging. Finally, highly technical details of batteries and drivetrains. We certainly have certain amounts of information, but ultimately engineers and mechanics are the best to discuss those matters. So these are some of the key areas which can be improved at the dealership, and here are, I think, some important steps we can take toward more positive interactions. First of all, we should realize that most plug-in customers and owners are relatively affluent. In general, it's not a matter of affordability for these vehicles. I know as we go into the mainstream, there will be more that concern. Right now, the vast majority of people we have interested in electric vehicles have great credit and have great income and so on also. So what's most important is to have the selection, the right vehicles, and the right information for these vehicles at dealerships. We should recognize that manufacturers are still recovering research and development costs for plug-in models. So profit margins at the dealership level are quite low. For the Volt, for example, it's just 2.5% roughly. So some people seem to think that dealerships have larger margins, and that's where they can get the discount. In actuality, it's in the incentives. That's where you can get very significant discounts, and for the dealership, they can add just generally modest amounts. So then, purchasing at MSRP is a great deal for the customer, and it shows support for plug-in technologies. Finally then, with the modest profits that dealerships can get with these plug-ins, these modest profits can be used to take the dealership from being compliant to friendly to ultimately enthusiast level. So then, this is where I think there is quite an opportunity for all of us. The dealership can be a vital part of the regional economy. The dealership can be the key retail location for reducing dependence on imported oil and for showing the links to the regional economy. This includes green and clean technologies. So this is what we're doing at our dealerships. First of all, regarding charger installation, we are emphasizing a local electrician, somebody who's specialized in installation for electric vehicles charging stations. It's Hopped Electric. They've done the installation at my home, for example, and the installations too at roughly over half of the public locations that I use in the greater Sacramento area. Then we go down to charger manufacturers. We have some great manufacturers in this Northern California region. First, there's Clipper Creek, which is based in Auburn. I just stopped by their headquarters on my way back from a trip to Tahoe in my Volt, and they've actually helped with the improvement in the level 1 portable charger in the Volt, and roughly half of the public chargers are made by Clipper Creek in this area. Now the other half are made by Coulomb Technologies, or the ChargePoint network. that company is based in Campbell, which is close to San Jose. Then we are developing relationships also with the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. That is just a wonderful EV-friendly utility district. They have great off-peak charging rates. And in addition, just a great program. It's called Green Energy Program. I'm on this program, which features renewable electrical energy sources. The major ones are wind, biomass, hydroelectric, and solar. In addition, you have PG&E, and they definitely have some great off-peak programs, and they're developing very EV-friendly policies and opportunities as well. I've mentioned also that in addition to the chargers, the Clipper Creek and Coulomb chargers that we feature, we are developing, we have under construction solar canopies. This should roughly double our charging capacity, and of course will showcase the electric vehicles even better. At our Chevy store, that will include the Volt and the Spark EV, and at the Toyota store, the plug-in Prius and the Toyota RAV4 EV. Finally, I want to mention my interaction with some other local and regional entities. First of all, there's the Regional Plug-in Electric Vehicle Council. This is a public-private partnership. It includes businesses, and it includes the local government. There's the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and they're coordinating on infrastructure and other aspects of developing a regional EV market. So this is one good and important group. Another is this is SAC EV. This was previously called the Greater Sacramento Electric Auto Association. This is a great group of EV owners with definite links to Plug-in America, headed by, of course, Tim Hastrup was the head. Tom Dowling is very important. Guy Hall. These are absolutely wonderful people that we're in contact with also. And then finally, I want to mention the Next Economy. This is an effort for California. It's broken down into regions in which an effort by businesses to improve our economy. And one of the four major areas is green clean technologies, of which electric vehicles is a keystone technology. So these are all wonderful interactions, which I think are very important in developing a much more healthy local and regional EV market. So finally, I want to conclude with this. I think this is just a wonderful slide, and to the broad plug-in or EV consumers, I want to say this happens to be a Volt, but please just feel free to plug in here your favorite model here. It can be a Nissan Leaf, a Toyota, a Ford, or of course it could be a Tesla as well. Any of these will certainly advance the cause here. And finally, I want to say thank you very much to all of you for listening, and once again, thanks very much to Plug-in America for organizing this very important topic.
Well, thanks a lot, Heath. You really put together a fine presentation for us with a lot of details. Anyway, now we have some time for some questions, and some questions have already come in from the audience. And members of the audience, you are invited to type in a few more questions if you're wondering about some things. So let me see, what questions do we have here? Oh boy, let's see. Okay, will the slides be distributed to attendees? Well, more or less, yes. In about a week, that's about how long it takes us to get everything together and put it on our website. So that our webinars web page at the Plug-in America website will eventually have video of this webinar and also include the slides from the webinar. So you'll be able to take a look at them there and share them with your colleagues. Also, somebody asked, let's see, Paul, here's a question for you. Where is that charging station located, the one that you showed with the curved PV panels?
That one is at the Mitsubishi headquarters in Orange County. So it's on a street called Catella, and if you just Google Mitsubishi headquarters, Orange County, it should pop up.
Okay. Is that anywhere near Disneyland?
It's about 6 miles from Disneyland, on the same street, I believe. You just go straight down Catella and you're at Disneyland. And it is free and available 24/7.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought I recognized the street name from a visit to Disneyland. Okay. Also, Paul, somebody was asking here about the fast chargers going in at Nissan dealerships, and you were saying that your dealership likes to be open to have anybody come and charge, but how likely is that going to be repeated at other dealerships? How open do you think the other dealerships are going to be?
Well, it's a toss-up. It really is. Some dealerships are very much into it, and they support the EVs a lot, and they will be very open. The agreement that we have, we're getting these fast chargers for free. Nissan and AeroVironment are putting them in at their cost. But we have a 90-day period where we have to give the energy away for free. And we don't know yet what this is going to cost us because we have no idea how many people are going to use it. But we'll track it, and if we think we can afford to continue giving it away for free, the level 2 will be free, pretty much forever. But the fast chargers might incur enough costs that we would have to charge a small fee for that. But I've talked to many of my customers, and they say they don't mind. On a fast charger, they're willing to pay a little bit. So if we do charge, it'll be a nominal fee. Other dealers will do it the way they want to do it, and some of them will only give you access during business hours. We're going to try to do this 24/7, but our dealership is located on the south edge of downtown Los Angeles, and the neighborhood around us isn't the safest. So we're going to see if it works, and if it does, great. And if there are problems with security, we may have to back off on that after hours.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Can I mention that?
Sure.
Yeah, at our dealership, we can make these chargers available for electric vehicle drivers also. This is right now, we haven't really publicized it yet because we do have limited numbers. I think when we put up these solar canopies and have more available, that's when I might put it out on some of the major apps, for example, that there's formal availability. But hey, if anybody's in the area, we can take care of you.
Yeah, I know my local, one of my local dealers, actually a Chevy dealer, has a canopy and a few charging stations that they invite people to use, but it isn't really advertised, and I don't see it on the maps. So I'm wondering when that's going to become more public knowledge for some of these dealerships. That was just a comment, not a question, I guess. But anyway, Paul, I know you've also done some work with solar, and somebody here was wondering, let's see, whenever they go to a dealership to talk about charging an EV, they want to know how much solar power array is needed for that. And they don't seem to get very satisfactory answers from the staff. Can you comment on that?
I've done that quite a bit, and in general, a good rule of thumb is 2 kilowatts of solar should generate enough energy to drive your car about 12,000 miles a year. That's just an average. It'll obviously vary if you're in Eugene, Oregon, or Miami, Florida. It's going to be quite different. But in general, that's a good rule of thumb, and that's based on 4 miles per kilowatt hour driving.
Okay. Well, somebody did ask, are profit margins more for ICE vehicle sales? Heath, you want to take that one?
Well, Basically, yes, for a number of ICE vehicles, and yeah, that's part of the challenge right now. Frankly, overall in the market, especially when you get to the smaller fuel-efficient vehicles, the ICE vehicles there too. It's incredibly competitive there, and very low profit margins for some of the smaller vehicles, as well as electric vehicles. I think part of the point in mentioning that when I talked about these low profit margins, that a lot of people they think back to 10, 20 years ago when there were greater margins in these vehicles, and but overall the margins are lower, and that definitely includes electric vehicles.
Okay, and kind of related there, Heath. Outside of the little bit of profit that you get when selling at MSRP, are dealers able to benefit from any other OEM or dealer side incentives?
Well, possibly. There are a lot of conditions on that, and it's not something you can count on. There are times, yeah, when you sell a certain number of units, for example. These are constantly changing. I can't say something consistently about that, but there are times when there is a bit more available. It just depends.
Okay. Let's see. Since both of you gentlemen work at dealerships, do you find that dealers are less inclined to sell EV versus a gas engine car because they get more aftermarket revenue from maintenance versus an EV, which requires essentially no maintenance? Well, okay, less maintenance, let's say. Paul, can you address that?
Well, certainly the dealers have a business to run, and you know there's 70 employees here. You've got a big payroll, so you've got to make money. And if they make more money selling ICE vehicles, they're obviously going to push that. But the smart dealers know that a change is coming in the industry, and they're going to have to adapt because the public, once they experience electric vehicles, that's what they want, and it's going to constantly transition over until 30, 40, 50 years from now. There are no more pure ICE vehicles. It's all plug-in, and so they've got to adapt to that kind of a market. And if they don't, they will fail. The dealers who are able to, get enough profit from the plug-in vehicles to survive will do fine. And I don't honestly know how they're going to do that with the pure BEVs because, quite frankly, these cars really require so little maintenance that there's just not that much after sale money involved. And so I'm going to leave that up to them. They're going to have to make more profit at point of sale. But as the cost of these cars come down, that'll be easier to do.
Let me comment on this too. I think that one really important point here is that right now, and this is frankly where organizations like Plug-in America can help. I think the main concern is that that they can handle these new customers, the questions, all the questions that they have, and help them transition into using electricity as the energy source, charging stations, home charging, public charging, and so on. So a main concern is customer satisfaction. I think I can speak for the ownership at our dealerships that they're perfectly happy getting more inventory in, selling these vehicles, as long as they feel that people will be happy. Because this is actually, for us, another important revenue source, is that if we hit certain customer satisfaction marks, then we do get bonuses from the factories, OEMs, from Chevrolet and Toyota. But if because of the challenges in new technologies, the customer satisfaction ratings are lower, then yeah, that could mean seriously lower profits for us. So this is an area where we all need to work together to have people who are better educated understand these vehicles more entering into this, and where we can all network and work together in providing a great ownership experience for these people. And along those lines, I mean, I've been putting some extra time into all this, but it's the one thing that keeps me going and is very rewarding is just to hear how, you know, after going through a couple of humps regarding charging and so on, so many people are really thrilled with these vehicles, and that's definitely something, some momentum that we need to continue with here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, here's an interesting question. Somebody's asking for numbers, and I don't know if you have the numbers, but maybe you have something in the ballpark in mind. What is the minimum dollars, time, and resource required for an existing auto dealership to be able to sell the Nissan Leaf, or you could fit in any other plug-in car there? What is the number one reason that will make an existing dealership want to invest in training sales staff and certifying a mechanic?
I've heard, and I don't have this on great authority, but the number I heard was about 40,000, and that had most of that had to do with equipment that you have to purchase to work on the Leaf to become certified, and a lot of that had to do with the battery itself, you know, being able to drop the battery out. I believe it's close to that, so that's probably a reasonable number to take home.
And I suppose you'd have to sell quite a few cars to recoup that much.
I would think so. I don't think they're making a lot of profit on these. You know, it doesn't seem like it, but you know, I don't work at the higher levels of the dealership. My goal here is just to get cars on the road, and if the dealer makes money, I'm really happy. But you know, I try hard to maintain MSRP whenever I can, but you know, it's up to the sales managers whether or not they want to bargain that far, and sometimes they're in the mood, and sometimes they're not.
You know, one important point here too is that, well, I don't know that I would attach some sort of specific amount here, but one thing that I think is needed in developing a healthier EV market is clearly what doesn't work is for dealerships to just have one or two vehicles, and it's. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to just be selling, say, one a month, or at some locations even less than that. Then, yeah, you do need a certain amount of expertise at both the sales and service levels. You need a certain amount of equipment. So those locations which can sell at least a few a month, that's what you need. You need a certain critical mass there, and then I think, yeah, it can be at least reasonably profitable to continue.
And I'll agree with that on the inventory. When the 2013s came out, Nissan improved the car quite a bit and lowered the price, which was great for sales. Immediately we got 8 in, sold 6 right off the bat, and we've gotten about 20 more in since then. We sold 8 just over last weekend. So the 2013s are selling very fast, and we're losing sales because people want, we now have 3 versions of the Leaf, and people want a specific color, they want a specific trim line, and if we don't have that, they'll go to another dealer and hopefully find it there, and they'll just buy it. So having a wide variety of cars is imperative if you're going to do a good volume of sales.
I agree totally, Paul, and that definitely was one frustrating thing for me is people would congratulate me for doing a great job and convincing them I should get, in my case, the Volt, of course, and but when I only had one or two, which I had in one case it was for 2 months running, then yeah, they would have to go to another location. So that's where I think, you know, the problem initially for both the Leaf and the Volt is that there were very few sent out to a lot of locations, and I think right now, I think it serves everybody better to have maybe fewer locations selling these vehicles, but at those locations to have the adequate selection of vehicles, and with that the expertise, the sales and service expertise from staff as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for those answers. We've been here for a whole hour now, so I'm going to conclude this webinar shortly. We do have some more questions here, and we will keep a record of those and review those and see if we can come up with some answers to put up on the website along with the slides and video in about a week. So thank you, audience, for all your questions, and thank you, Paul and Heath, for presenting today and answering questions. Thanks also go to Aaron Tater for technical and admin support, and I have been your host, Dave Atherton. This concludes this webinar. Thanks for attending, everybody, and have a good evening.